Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the presentation of the US 401 corridor study. I'd like to thank the help that I've received from Ms. Bonnie Parker, as well as Mr. Daniel Spruill and Ms. Stephanie Ponchich with the Capital Area NPO. I'd like to also thank the participation that we received from the consultant team that had worked on the project for the past 2 years. Those include members of WSP, such as Mr. Fred Frank, Siobhan Shalat, as well as Ms. Sarah Parkins. I'd also like to thank the help that we received from the core technical team, which basically are the technical staff from members throughout the area, as well as the stakeholder oversight team, which included elected officials and others who had an interest in this particular project. Again, we look forward to your review of this material as being presented and continue to follow up with the Capital Area NPO staff or if you have any specific questions. Just to give you background with regard to the presentation, it will basically be a summary of what's occurred in the development of the US 401 corridor study, taking into account the compilation of work that had been done beginning at phase 1 in early 2021, all the way up to the development of a preferred alternative, which occurred during the summer of this year. This is the fourth of 5 rounds of public engagement, with the 5th round to occur later in or early 2024, with board action to occur at that particular time. Again, if you look at the diagram on the lower right, you'll see where we are, where we have developed some recommendations for prioritization, and we are going through the public engagement process as we speak right now. The important thing that we really want to just recognize with regard to the recommendation is this: improvements to existing 401 and other roadways that are included in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and are currently in transportation plans or the transportation program as it exists right now are to be prioritized and implemented for construction before an ultimate long-term recommendation for a new roadway known as US 60 as future US 401 were to be built. So again, we want to stress that the current existing projects that are planned along US 401, as well as future projects to be implemented on other roadways and at various intersections in the area, are to be built before any movement or consideration is to be made for doing the long-term recommendation of a new roadway recognized as the future US 401. Or what the agenda is going to do is we're going to do a quick project recap, address existing US 401 recommendations in both Wake County and Harnett County, address what could be done or should be done along NC 55, what's being done, of course, for the Angier Bypass, part of which is under construction right now, as well as NC 210 between Angier and Lillington. We'll also look at future and long-term alignment recommendation for the future US 401, as well as talk about next steps leading to this conclusion of a US 401 corridor study. To give you background, the most important pillar of metropolitan planning or of a metropolitan planning organization is the creation of what is called the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The plan consists of several facets, which include large area studies, corridor studies, hotspot studies, other special studies involving bicycle pedestrian access, transit access, as well as looking at local land use and transportation plans, and of course, taking into account the transit plan as created through Wake County Wake Transit Plan. This project and process is conducted every 4 years and is a major regional undertaking, not only for the Capital Area NPO, but also includes the Durham, Chapel Hill, Carrboro NPO. But the area, of course, we're addressing right now is strictly within the Capital Area NPO and in the region of the NPO that's recognized as the Southwestern region, and this being one of the major corridors in that region. The goal of a corridor study is to focus on attention on a single corridor to resolve specific issues. And this is an initial step of planning. And again, we're going to say of planning for corridor improvements. Preferred improvements or new alignments recommended from a corridor study still require additional refinement in the project development and design phases. So this is just the beginning of a long process in the application of doing improvements along not only existing US 401, but should there be a future US 401, there are things that would need to be done. And of course, we are at the planning stage or planning phase. Just to give you background with regard to US 401 corridor and the US 401 corridor study, you need to go back and take into account the history of this region. The original alignment was created by the Board of Transportation and included in the thoroughfare plan that was initially created by the Board of Transportation in March of 1997, and then incorporated into that plan on May 7th, 1999. There were several iterations of improvements, not only just for the US 401 corridor, but other corridors that were incorporated statewide in terms of the statewide thoroughfare plan. And this happened to be one of those that was done in May of 1999. And again, this was recognized as a part of the Board of Transportation's 1997 statewide thoroughfare plan. It's been included in the MTP as far as the existing alignment, and absent any future decision with regard to the alignment or future US 401 alignment, the 2050 MTP project alignment will remain. So again, this study addresses that, taking in consideration that one of the goals is to improve existing US 401 and exploring alternative alignments for the future US 401. The outcomes we look to have with regard to the US 401 corridor study include planning and design, vision, short and long-term solutions, and of course, pursue implementable projects. Of course, the goals include reducing congestion, increased transportation capacity and safety, encouraging economic development, and of course, strongly incorporating public and stakeholder input, as well as accommodate the other modes of travel that are just as important in this region, which include transit, bike ped, and the movement of freight traffic in this area. Again, just as a reminder of where we are with regard to this study schedule, we've done a lot of engagement, and we appreciate the engagement that has been done. Significant amount of public engagement has occurred with regard to this project, and we had begun with that engagement in round one, which occurred in 2021. Took a lot of public input, particularly in rounds 2 and 3 in terms of phase 2, the development of various solutions for the project in 2021 through 2022. And ultimately can have come to the preferred alternative, which is why we are doing the public engagement right now at this particular moment in time. And we'll have final recommendations with a final plan adoption in early 2024, which will be the conclusion of the project in the phase 4. Let's begin with regard to a review of the future US 401. One of the goals, and of course, what was scoped in the study was to determine the alignment that we'd be looking at, considering existing and future land uses and environmental constraints. We wanted to examine the type of roadway that would be applicable, and in light of that, determine what type of access should be applied, whether through intersection or interchange configurations. In the Fuquay Marina section, which is another element of the scope that was a part of this project, we wanted to improve safety along the segment, as you see with my cursor going through Fuquay Marina, improve access in particular, implement NCDOT's complete street guidelines to improve bicycle, pedestrian, and transit-based mobility, and include improvements to intersections at key locations. And in Harnett County, we want to provide regional connectivity, improve safety around railroad crossings, particularly in the Kipling area, and prepare for future growth. The commonality I'd just like to mention with regard to all of the various segments that we're talking about is we need to recognize that this region is a fast growing region with developments occurring on a regular pace. It is a significant part of the overall Campo region in terms of growth. And we need to ensure that in light of that growth, that we address as many avenues of transportation movement as possible, taking into account that that's one of the reasons why we are conducting the US 401 corridor study. In light of all that, let me just do a quick review of all the previous studies. Just want to mention to you that this is not the first time that we've really looked at US 401. There was an initial analysis back in 2010, largely done through NCDOT. There have been numerous local studies that have occurred. We've also seen the implementation and creation of the Weight Transit Plan as of 2016. We'd adopted the MTP, 2045 MTP in 2017, along with other vision and comprehensive plans by Fuquay Varina and Harnett County. We also had the Northwest Area Plan done in Harnett County in 2019, as well as the Southwest Area Plan for Campo that was done in 2018 and concluded in 2019. And there was the Plan Weight Comprehensive Land Use Plan in 2021. As you can see, based on all these plans as compiled over the past 13 years or so, we see that there has been a consistent theme recognizing the growth that's occurring in this region and the needs to have work done to ensure that in light of the growth that's occurring, that we have good planning to complement that growth. Along with the significant growth, you have impacts on various communities in the area as well. Of course, we expect forecasted increases in employment and population, and of course, congestion in light of that. And of course, this impacts safety, the natural resources, and there will be gaps in access to and with bicycle pedestrian facilities in light of that growth. So we want to make sure that we address all of those factors as we look at planning for the US 401 corridor. As you can see, there are area projects that are already included in the 2050 MTP, from hilltop relocation to widening NC 210 to 4 lanes, and various improvements throughout what we call the Southwest area as far as the study area is concerned. And of course, this is the area of study for US 401. So in light of that, sorry, the person wasn't supposed to do that. Oops, there we go. One of the things that we want to highlight is that there were specific study questions concerning this area. So based on analysis, we wanted to find, is this the right set of projects? Are there other improvements to be recommended? And how should they be prioritized? And we'll get to those in a moment. We need to recognize, along with consideration for US 401, there are other projects that are being considered for this area. So let's take into account Future 401 as it exists in the current 2050 MTP. There was a new alignment that started at US 401 south of Banks Road, and it crossed NC 42 and NC 55 with a plan of terminating at the US 1 at the Wake Harnett County line with a potential extension to Piney Grove Rawls Road. So the goal was to look at ways in which we could have traffic bypass the central business districts of both Fuquay and Varina, in order to ensure that the traffic that's going particularly south or going north toward Raleigh or south toward Fayetteville had good access and was sufficient in ensuring that there would be good travel for or good for the movement of freight goods, as well as commuters who are going to various points, either to the park, downtown Raleigh, or maybe even south to Fayetteville and Fort Bragg. In this process, we looked at traffic projections in the area. And so we note that with regard to with Future 401 and without Future 401, what the traffic concerns would be. Of course, there was a decrease in travel time with the increased growth. So that's one of the things we needed to note. In light of the growth, there was going to be a growth in traffic and therefore impacting the major road systems, as we can see in both scenarios, without and with a future US 401. This is also expressed in traffic dispersion. As we look at the concentration of traffic along US 401, we see that the routes that are taken, particularly the north-south routes, the movement, of course, would be toward Raleigh, would be a heavy movement. It would be heavy movement along NC 540 as well as NC 55 and US 1, all going to the heavily populated business and research centers that are to the north and west. Conversely, going south and east to the new subdivisions and subdivisions that are being built in the area, you can see how the traffic would be moving based on the facilities that are available where we expect the bulk of traffic to occur. And so based on the analysis that we see there, one of the things we wanted to do, and based on that public feedback, which we thank our citizens for, we wanted to refine the alignment location for future US 401 for use in future planning efforts, such as the upcoming 2055 MTP, which we're beginning to work on at this time. This project was broken up into 5 segments, from Banks Road to NC 55, from 55 to Judd Parkway to Ennis Street to Judd Parkway Southwest, and then from Judd Parkway Southwest to Harnett County. And these, if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see what the major recommendations were. We're looking at widening from 4 to 6 lanes, and this is already included in the MTP, Banks Road from Banks Road to NC 55, and various complete street improvements through town, and ultimately from Judd Parkway Southwest to Harnett County, widen from 2 to 4 lanes, and including features of a raised median and a multi-use path, and we'll get to those in just a moment. So again, from Banks Road to NC 55, we're looking at improvements which include convert a portion between Lake Wheeler Road and Hilltop to a reduced conflict intersection. That project has been included is being looked at as a project for a future transportation improvement program project. And the horizon year of this project is 2050. And of course, the desire is to ultimately to widen this portion as shown in the bubble to your right, widen from 4 to 6 lanes. And of course, right below, you see the profile that includes multi-use path on both sides and 6 lanes with shoulders on both sides, as well as a drainage ditch. From NC 55 to Ennis Street, we're looking to include a raised median and maintain the existing number of median vehicle lanes and provide some access control in the form of median and multi-use paths. So this would be including more of a complete street facet. And based on public input and study team input, there was interest in this was a study preference. And again, we see the study preference for Ennis Street to Judd Parkway Southwest. This portion includes a right in, right out. This was studied with intensity during the Southwest area study. And basically, we're looking at a right in, right out at Railroad Street with a raised island and no improvements on US 401 due to right-of-way limitations. I think something happened where the slides skipped. So let me go back up to, okay, I did cover Ennis Street. Sorry about that. We looked at pedestrian and bicycle facilities along US 401 in Wake County. And so beyond what you see in green, we see other improvements that we wanted to include in terms of multi-use paths, wide sidewalks, and parallel bike improvements. Let me highlight those improvements. So for example, between Ennis Street to Judd Parkway Southwest, instead of improving US 401, existing 401 through town, we would incorporate bicycle facilities on the parallel streets such as Ennis Street, Raleigh Street, and Fuquay Avenue. This would be safe for bicyclists, minimize conflicts between bicyclists and pedestrians, and maintain the existing US 401 cross section. For this portion, of course, in Wake County, we want to, of course, improve the portion from Judd Parkway Southwest to Piney Grove Rawls Road with a 4-lane median divided roadway with a sidewalk on both sides. And this would be consistent with what is in the MTP and include a 10-foot wide multi-use path on each side so that it sort of has a complete street component to it, where we not only address movement by cars as well as transit, but also we want to provide an opportunity for bicycle and pedestrian transportation as well. And with regard to transit, we want to strengthen connections to Garner and Raleigh. There's current service by Wake Transit into Fuquay Arena. We also want to include connections to Holly Springs and Apex. That may be an occurrence in the future in light of the growth that's occurring on NC 55 leading into Holly Springs and the opening of the hospital in Holly Springs, as well as job opportunities in the Apex area. For Harnett County, we wanted to highlight the recommendations in light of the fast growth that's occurring in this section of US 401 as well. Currently, it exists as 2 lanes, and one of the things we wanted to do was utilize the existing US 401 alignment based on input from the public and the desire to improve the existing facility through Harnett County. We want to widen it to 4 lanes at 45 miles an hour. And so, as a process of widening it, we wanted to look at 2 things that were important. In certain locations, there's more right-of-way than others. Where there's a narrow right-of-way or a narrower right-of-way width, we would, which would be 120 feet, we would have a multi-use path on both sides. And where applicable, what we would do is address and ensure that we accommodate both bicycle and pedestrian access in light of that limitation on right-of-way width. And of course, where it is 150 feet wide, in terms of right-of-way, we would still attempt to have a 10-foot multi-use path on both sides and not have it restricted based on the amount of right-of-way that is there. So where right-of-way is available, utilize as many facets of mode transportation as possible. In light of the growth that's occurring, we want to ensure that along with bicycle pedestrian facilities along US 401, as mentioned with regard to multi-use path, we want to consider along collector and local roads in the area, particularly between Rawls Church Road and Harnett Central Road, that we include bicycle pedestrian facilities on those locations. In light of the growth that's occurring, there are people that would be amenable to travel by bike and ped rather than just get in their cars to go short-term trips or recreational trips. And so we want to provide opportunities for people to use or have bicycle facilities on parallel roadways. Along with that, we considered intersection improvements, as mentioned, particularly from Piney Grove Rawls Road. We have some suggestions: Rawls Church Road, Calumet Springs, Calumet Road, Fayetteville School, Lafayette School Road, as well as Lafayette Road. We have some improvements there we're recommending in terms of signalizing the intersection or restrict turns at various points. And with regard to the railway recommendations, the desire is to redesign the railroad crossings along US 401 and other roadways in the area to accommodate future widening due to the growth that's occurring. And the areas of interest were Matthews Road, Lafayette School Road, and Calumet Road. Next, we include recommendations for NC 55, Angier Bypass, and NC 210. And so, based on earlier discussions with regard to existing 401, as a reminder, we wanted to widen it from 4 to 6 lanes. On 55, the desire is to widen from 2 to 4 lanes. And this is along the links between Hickorilla Lane and Angier Bypass, 5 Points, Old Honeycutt Road, and then Honeycutt Road and Hickorilla Lane. And these are noted in terms of horizon years, as shown 2030, 2040, and 2050 is when these should be done. And then there's a continuation of Angier Bypass, which we see completed in the 2030 horizon year, with the widening of NC 210 from 2 to 4 lanes by 2050. Let me note, with regard to these particular projects, we desire to pursue these projects before we really look at doing a future US 401 project. So again, this project or these projects would be more near-term projects than a future US 401. Now we're on to future US 401. To begin, we need to go back in time, back to the earlier phases of the study. In phase 1 in particular, we initially looked at the 3 sections that you see in either red, or not pink, but not red, but pink, orange, and yellow. Of course, yellow is section A. We looked at various alignments there. Section B includes various alignments, as well as section C. We wanted to look at other facets such as partial or full access, and we had partial access control facility with interchanges at US 401, NC 42, and NC 55, with inclusion of reduced conflict intersections, with right in, right outs, and looking at over and underpasses or grade separations of various roads. We looked at various trade-offs because we know that life is full of choices and trade-offs. Depending upon the section, we see the least impact upon various elements such as agriculture and environmental features for each and every one of the sections. So we see the least to the most with regard to that. And so those were reviewed by the team as well as the public. And based on that feedback, here's what we had come to do. So based on that feedback, we wanted additional analysis to look at an alignment further to the south and southeast, the viability of making improvements on existing US 401 that would serve traffic and have a similar impact to a new roadway, eliminating the need for a future US 401, as well as adjust the scope of the study, which was to conclude nearly a year ago to conduct additional analysis on other alternatives. And in December, what we had come to was an analysis of 3 final alternatives, which were presented to the community for feedback and input, which were alignments W, X, and Z. As you see, based on the alignments that are provided here, W, X, and Z, we looked at their impacts, both higher and lower, based on various facets from commercial industrial development to the ability to provide multimodal services as well as access to adjacent properties. And so those are the alignments that we did further analysis on. We went out to the public to get feedback for prioritizing these alignments. As you can see, based on the questions put forward here, we came to some conclusions. The highest priorities were enhancing safety for all users. That was 57%, improving traffic conditions and widening and operations through widening of existing roads. That was 59%, as well as improving traffic conditions and operations by creating alternative travel routes, 53%. And this was conducted at the meetings that were held in Fuquay Marina and Harnett County in the month of December 2022. So now we go into the discussion of the recommended alignment. So based on public feedback received and in collaboration with the local jurisdictions and NCDOT, the study team analyzed an additional alternative, which basically is a hybrid that includes alternative X on the eastern section and alternative Z in the northern section. It's determined that the Angier Bypass would be a good, proper connection for movement. And what we do is smooth out the connection between alternative Z and the Angier Bypass. And as you can see, in terms of the cross section, you include 4 lanes with 20 or 23 foot median and multi-use path on both sides as well. We note the benefits of alternative Z and the challenges of alternative Z. We see how it provides a connection to the Angier Bypass and uses NC 210, enhances existing travel patterns between Lincoln and Banks Road. And what happens is, with regard to a southern parkway, that can be downgraded to an arterial road with 2 to 3 lanes. And of course, with this particular project, will require a new right-of-way to construct on. It impacts approximately 100 properties, 58% of which are residential and 25% which are agricultural. As we compare the two alignments, we see that the XZ alignment is 1 to 1.5 miles east of the existing MTP alignment. And the XZ alignment terminates at NC 55, just right above the Wake County, Harnett County border, whereas the other alignment goes further west, as we mentioned, to connect with US 401 near the Wake County, Harnett County border with a possible connection to Piney Grove Rawls Road. And so based on public feedback on both alternative alignments and the criteria for prioritizing road improvements, and in coordination with the team, the technical team, core technical team, and the stakeholder oversight team, the recommendation is to advance the alternative XZ, and it provides a better alignment than the US 401 alignment that is shown currently in the 2050 MTP. And again, this is still in the planning phase and would not be planned for construction until 2050 or after. Along with the recommendations for a future US 401 project, the recommended projects for existing 401 between Banks Road and NC 55, as well as NC 55 between US 401 and Angier Bypass, again, should be elevated to a nearer build, which we call a sooner, and continue to prioritize other roadway and intersection improvements in the study. They can provide a more near-term benefit with the future US 401 as identified in the XZ alignment being built at a very later date. We cannot stress this enough, the importance of how we need to prioritize what has been in the plan and what's been a part of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan for many years that could provide an immediate benefit to the growing area and address a future 401 at a later date. We welcome you all to attend the public open houses, which will occur October 17th at the Harnett Resource Center and Library in Lillington, as well as the October 23rd open house that will occur in the Fuquay Arena Town Hall. We'll also have a virtual Ask a Planner presentation on October 26th. We will be gathering and putting together website and toolkit information that will be on the website in the next few days. There are scheduled pop-ups in the area as well, and we'll look at other ways in which we can engage the public through survey or through various other means of engagement. Following the review of the community's recommendations, we will move to refine final recommendations and develop a final report, which the executive board will consider endorsement of those recommendations, which we look to do by early 2024. We'd like to mention that the MPO, NCDOT, and local jurisdictions work to program the recommended short-term and midterm projects into their next planning and development phases. And again, we are beginning work, as I mentioned earlier, on the 2055 MTP. And so we're looking to incorporate those short and midterm recommendations earlier in the 2055 MTP. I want to say thank you for this opportunity. I hope this has been informative for you. And again, we encourage you all to stay engaged with regard to this project. We look forward to your input. And as always, we appreciate the support and follow through and following up on this project by those who have been engaged in this particular study. Thank you all very much, and you all have a good day.